See them blue for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our second episode of the Camp Corner podcast. Kiana and Brynn here. We're very happy to have the camp's leadership team joining us today.
Hi,
Would you guys
everyone.
like to introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Brendan. I'm the executive director.
I'm John. I'm the associate director.
I'm Emily. I'm the program director.
And I'm Cashel, and I'm head counselor.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh.
All right. Thank you again for joining us. We're very excited to have you. So to start us off, our first question to you is, what brought you to this position, to the camp? What was your oh my goodness, I'm working here moment?
Well, last October I was laid off from my previous job, and I was looking for someplace to work, and the job posting was on the OCA website, and I took a look at the camp website and really liked the philosophy of Sparrow Lake. And turns out my wife had come here as a child, and her mother as well. So I thought I would take a shot, and I was fortunate enough to be hired.
We're very glad that happened.
Yeah.
For myself, I've worked at camps since 2015, and I've worked at 3 different camps. This is my 4th camp that I've worked at. Last summer, at the end of the summer, I went on a 13-day canoe trip for my program at university and had to find a summer job that included me working in the camp industry, which is something I've loved for so long, but could also accommodate my program. And after looking at a few camps, Sparrow Lake, the values really connected with me. I felt that it was a place that I really, really wanted to work at because I felt very connected to the values.
For myself, I was also looking for a job for the summer, and I'm friends with some previous staff members that we had, and they recommended that I apply and work here, and they thought I'd be a good fit. And one of the things that I really enjoyed about this camp was that my knowledge was really respected right away. It was never questioned. While I feel like a lot of camps, when they see a female in the outdoors, or even just someone right out of university who learned their outdoor skills in an academic setting, it can be questioned sometimes, and it might be seen as like you have to prove yourself. So I thought that my ideas are never questioned here, and they're always accepted. So that's what I really liked about this camp.
I felt very similarly. So when I came here, I felt as though I had that opportunity to grow. I had that opportunity to challenge myself. I had that opportunity to keep learning, but also teach others what I have learned, rather than be questioned every step of the way.
I think that's true for not only staff, but campers, which I love and appreciate about this camp.
Mm-hmm. There's never that mentality of, let's get some big, strong boys to do this work for us. It's like, hey, can I have some capable people who are willing to help? And everyone's always willing to help here. It's always a give and take, teamwork environment, supportive environment. Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking for a new camp to work at, a new challenge, new opportunity. I kind of came down to 3 different camps, Sparrow Lake being one of them. And I think the thing that really resonated with me about Sparrow Lake, was the history of the place. I'd known a few people who were campers here. My wife knew a few people and went to school with the people who were campers here. Again, I really liked the values of the United Church, and I really liked what the camp presented itself as, in its website and so on. And yeah, the history, being the 4th oldest camp in Ontario, I think really says something about how committed to this camp people are, and that's, I think, the biggest thing that attracted me.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of staff members here are very loyalty driven. They
Yeah.
are loyal to the campers' experience, they're loyal to their own camp experience, and just the camp in general. It's something about Sparrow really attracts that part of people.
I remember last year, the special day where all the staff came back.
Mm-hmm.
Like those are the staff that I grew up with, and I don't know, I admired, and they made camp a special experience for me, and so it was nice having them back and be able to try and create that experience for them, and then for the campers also. That was one of my favorite special days.
And
Being
you
able
can
to
see
get
it
that
in,
energy.
and you can see it in the alumni too, because they come back for special days, or we have alumni volunteering to do maintenance here at camp, and they're just so willing to provide that camp experience, whether it's helping with site work or helping with programming. They just want to provide that good childhood memory that they had.
Right. Anything else to add, or should we move on? Okay. So thank you for all your awesome answers. Next, we would like to talk about your experiences overcoming obstacles growing up. If you have any tips for campers coming to camp, maybe overcoming obstacles of camp, life obstacles, growing up as a camper, whatever comes to mind.
Camp was always I didn't attend Sparrow Lake. I grew up at Camp Amick in Algonquin Park as part of the Taylor Satin camps. But camp for me was an escape and a place to recharge. I was very much the outcast child in my school. I was bullied for being different, and so camp was always a place for me to overcome that and really find who I was. And I think that's pretty true with a lot of people's camp experiences from what I've been listening to stories here at Sparrow Lake and through other people's camp experiences. But it really was, I would hate to see what my life would have turned out to be like without camp. It was such a positive driving force. I eventually met my wife at the camp that we were at, and it really is just part of who I am. I can't sort of say that, paddle in a canoe is not part of one of the things that I love to do. So
yeah, I know camp raised me. I've been here for 10 years, and so it taught me a bunch of life skills that working as a team, being selfless, helping out each other, respect, responsibility, accountability, all those things camp at least help teach me. I think it's valuable.
I also learned how to accept and manage my own anger, which was a huge thing. It was a pivotal point for me on a canoe trip where I was being, some of the other campers were getting on my nerves. I literally remember telling my counselor, I'm going to get firewood. Grabbed the axe. I was a senior camper. Grabbed the axe, found this tree deep in the woods, and literally unleashed all of my anger on this poor, 3.5-inch sapling that really had done nothing to me. But what it kind of sort of taught me in the long run was that anger is part of who you are, and you can take that anger and turn it into something positive. And once you kind of realize that, it really did change a lot of the way I viewed things, and was able to sort of say, yep, okay, I'm going to take that and I'm going to process it, and I'm going to be okay. The sapling was not okay. But we had firewood.
That's the best part. It's being productive.
Yeah.
Turning that anger and making it into something productive.
Do you want to share your bus story?
Bus story.
Or how people, your mom saw the change?
Oh yeah, there was that. Yes, we talked about that earlier today. So literally when I got off the bus my very first summer, my mom could see a visible difference in my face and how I was acting, and how I was just much happier and brighter and full of stories of life. And she sort of made it her mission to make sure that no matter what it took, she was a single mom, so she worked 2 jobs. She borrowed money from my grandmother. I was on a bursary, but whatever it took to get me to go back to camp every summer so that I could have that ability to recharge and regenerate.
Yeah, I think camps were started in the beginning as a form of childcare, obviously, and that's kind of where they come from. But I think camps as an industry and as a phenomena realized very early on that as soon as you take kids out of their comfort zone, out of the comfort zone of their homes, and put them into a new environment, they start to be in charge of who they are. And I think that that's something very important to the growth of children, because when we're at home, we're kind of constantly reminded by our parents and by our friends and by our schoolmates and by our teachers and by everyone around us about who we are and what we're capable of. But when you come to camp, you come here once a year for a week or 2 weeks, and you're allowed to change. You're allowed to be a different person. You're allowed to come in and define yourself as who you want to be. You're allowed to come and try the things that you want to try, be it sailing or the ropes course or arts and crafts or sports or whatever it is that interests you. And you're also put into a social situation where you need to introduce yourself and make friends and make new friends with new people who you've never met before. And that, to me, I think is the great challenge of camp. I mean, that's really the obstacle, is leaving your comfort zone and kind of becoming who you are. And that, I think, is fundamentally why I really enjoy camp, because it's just about creating a place so that kids can do that, so that it's possible.
As a kid, I had a bit of trouble leaving that comfort zone. So an emotional aid, as I think I would call it now, is I always brought my best friend with me to camp. And we'd do everything together at the beginning of the week. And by the end of the week, we had our own friends at camp, so we could split off and do our own things. And so that was my own obstacle, because I was a very shy child and I didn't want to talk to other people. But by bringing my best friend, she brought me into those groups, and she acted very much as like a, don't leave Cashel out, like let's join this conversation. And now we have a group of friends and I can split up into those groups. And it really helped me develop my social skills and develop going up to new people and becoming my own person that was detached from my best friend. I didn't have to rely on her anymore. And then in later years, we started going to separate camps, and I had my own group of friends, and obstacles that can be overcome at camp, definitely, and new techniques to be learned.
Yeah, camp really challenges kids in almost every way that you can imagine. It challenges them socially and physically and mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and it allows kids to grow in those ways that I just don't think that you're going to get by staying at home, especially by staying at home and watching your iPad or whatever it is. And you always are stretched in just the way you need to, it seems.
And it's something that day camps don't offer, because like you go there for the day and you come home and you're still in the same environment. But here, like for 1 week, 2 weeks, 5 days, however long you decide to come, you're in a completely, like, you're in a camp bubble.
Yeah.
You're allowed to do, like you mentioned before, become yourself.
I find the real difference also with that is every place a kid goes, there's someone in charge of them. There's home where your parents are or whoever takes care of you. There's school where you have your teachers. If you have a babysitter, like there's always someone in charge of you. Well, I find at camp, it's very like, what program do you want to do today? And your camp counselors are often seen more as buddies than like teachers. And I remember having this one kid who would always call me their teacher, like, teacher, what would we do today? Miss, what can we do? And I was like, you can call me Cashel, like, use my first name. I'm a person, you're a person. Like, we're on the same level here, buddy. And kind of just like blew their mind that they could like refer to me by my first name and develop that sense of personhood in themselves instead of just, you're a child, know your place as a child kind of thing. They get to speak their mind.
Yeah, that role of the staff member as a facilitator, you know, obviously we're here to keep kids safe, but our role is not a didactic role. We're not here to specifically instruct. We're here to facilitate growth. And if a kid wants to learn about something, they want to learn how to sail, they come to sailing and they ask to learn, and we teach them. And if they don't want to learn how to sail, then they don't have to learn how to sail. They can learn something else if they want to, or they can learn something on their own too.
It's very similar to challenge by choice. So they choose their own adventure when they're here.
Yeah, that's that ropes course.
I
Yeah.
see it a lot at the ropes course because I've worked at ropes for 4 years now. That sounds about right. And I've seen incredible development of campers and staff just from being at ropes. Just not just within themselves, but their ability to communicate with others, because communication is really important with the ropes course. And their ability to say, yes, I want to try something new, or maybe not. Maybe I'll think about this. But a lot of the times, campers leave more confident and leave happier. We had a camper, or I worked with a camper a couple of years back at a ropes course, and they had explicitly told me their entire life, they were always told they can't do this. They can't do challenging things. They can't do it, unfortunately, because they were a girl. And they were told me that. And they were incredibly terrified to make it to the tops of the ropes course. But they did. And when they came down to the ground, they gave me the biggest hug and were crying and were like, you just changed my life. Like, I feel so much more alive now. And it was a really powerful moment. But, yeah.
I cried at the top of the ropes course. It happens to us all.
Yeah, it's that physical challenge becomes so representative of so much else. I think I have a similar story. I was at a camp for kids with cancer, and there was a young boy there who just had leg surgery, and his leg was in a big cast. They couldn't move it, and a lot of the staff at the camp were just comfortable letting him sit around, but he really wanted to climb the rock climbing wall. So we decided to get him in a harness and see what happened. So we got him in a harness and got him up to the rock climbing wall, and he dragged himself halfway up the rock climbing wall, just by sheer will. And the kid who went up that wall, I would say, was a very different kid than the kid who came down the wall. Because it's the physical challenge, I think, is really just a representation of something else. It's not just about climbing the wall. It's about proving to yourself that you're capable of doing something that people tell you you're not capable of.
It's literally reaching new heights.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And that's something that you carry with you for your entire life. That's whenever you run into a challenge later on in life. So you've got a deadline, or you've got I've got to get this team of people together to get this project done, and I don't think I can do it. You think back to those challenges and you think, I climbed that wall, or I ran that portage, or I was able to I won a sailing race, and those things carry with you, and you start to believe in yourself more. And even when you doubt yourself, you come back to camp and you're like, I can do it.
Yeah. It's the very real accomplishments too that kids can see is there, and I did that thing. I know I did that thing, and there's no question about it. Where other things that they might be used to, like letter grades or something, you're just like, well, I got an A. It doesn't really mean anything to me. I guess I did that school assignment or something like that. But once they climb that rock wall, or they do that portage, like you said, there's no question that you didn't do it. You 100% did it. If you cried while doing it, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you hated it the whole time, which I don't. Like, there's type 2 fun out there where you have a really rough time after, but afterwards you're like, wow, that was great. I had so much fun. And there's no question about it that you accomplished your goal, or you did your thing.
So there's, I don't know, my coach always says, like, there's fun and there's a feeling of, like, happiness. So, like, happiness is more of a self-worth. Like, maybe it was like you hated it, or it was very challenging, and in the middle of it, you're like, why am I doing this?
Mhm.
But by the time you get to the end, you're like, I did that. It sucked, but I did it. And so that self-fulfillment, self-worth.
Absolutely.
But this is a big thing that I think our society doesn't really teach us, is this concept of resilience and mental toughness. And I think camp really gives kids an opportunity to learn. Like when that boy climbed that rock climbing wall, like he didn't do it in one go. He fell like several times. But the most important thing wasn't the fact that he fell, it's the fact that he picked himself back up and tried to keep going. And I think that's, if anything, camp gives kids an opportunity to do new things, but it also gives an opportunity to fail safely. And if you fall off the rock climbing wall, you're not going to get hurt. You might at the very most like kind of scrape your knee a little bit, but you can just keep going after. And that's a huge thing. Whereas sometimes, out in the quote unquote real world, a failure can be catastrophic. And a lot of times you do a test in math, you really only have one shot. Whereas, if you want to get a sailing level, like we'll give it a couple goes and, try and do it and keep going back and building resilience in kids.
No one's going to shoot you down too. It's again back to that supportiveness of this environment. No one's going to be like, you only made it halfway up the rock wall? Man, that kind of sucks. Like they're going to be like, wow, look how high you went. That's twice as high as you went last time. Or I can't believe you did it this time. It's always like pride in what you did.
One thing I always made sure of, last summer I was the head of the Adventure Zone, which is the ropes course here, and was uplifting that spirit and making sure, like, even if you only got 3 or 4 holds up the rock wall, you still got 3 or 4 holds up the rock wall. Like, that is an incredible accomplishment. And yes, your friend might have made it all the way to the top, but your friend is not you. Like, you made it as far as you could, and you challenged yourself even just to get that far, which is incredibly powerful.
Yeah, you measure yourself.
Because you could very easily just say, no, I'm not going to do it. And then you don't have that experience. You have a negative attitude about it now, and you just shut yourself down before you even give yourself a chance. And you have to be your biggest fan, your biggest supporter first. And I think showing that in kids by constantly being their supporter and being their biggest fan really helps their self-esteem here.
They're their biggest cheerleaders.
I think that kind of brings us to the next question of, like, for campers or parents who are nervous either about sending their kids to camp or campers going to camp, what kind of advice do you think you would give to either the parents and campers?
Bring a buddy if you can. Like, you're going to make friends here no matter what, but again, I'm going to say, having a friend at camp is what opened me up to that supportiveness, to this environment, to opening myself up even. If you can, just the biggest thing is an emotional support, even if it's another person.
Building off of that, something that's meaningful to you that you're willing to, or that you understand could be ruined. So, for example, my first year at camp, I brought a notebook that I would write in every single day. I would write what happened every single day so that when I left, I was able to reflect on that. And even I still have that notebook to this day, and that was 10 years ago, 9 years ago, and I still look at it and remember every single day. And something that you can hold on to after the moment is done. But something that also brings you back to, like, where you've come from.
Sorry, did you mean ruined, like something, it can be weathered and like,
Yeah.
Okay, like something that can get damaged, have some wear and tear.
Ruined might not be the right word.
Yeah, it's an interesting question because I think it really depends on the age of the kid and where they're at. As a parent, you are the world's leading expert on your child, and you're going to know, I think, just instinctually what it is that they'll need to be away from you. But I think it is important, as a parent, that you push them off on that first day of kindergarten and they're crying, or, and there's definitely the kids who didn't cry, who just ran right in there. My daughter was one of the kids who cried, and it took some days for her to not cry going in. But I think it takes faith to be a parent, and it takes faith to be a parent to send a kid to camp and trust that they're going to make it. And having that faith in your child, I think, is one of the best investments that you can make in them. When they get to camp, we have a lot of programs, a lot of rituals, a lot of structures that really encourage and facilitate making friends and really help kids feel comfortable and really engage them so that they're not just constantly sitting around thinking about being at home. They're active and they're doing stuff. So yeah, I mean, I think I would always just say to the parent, if you feel that your kid's ready to go to camp, they're ready to go to camp. And we do have shorter sessions that we've started doing, just overnights or 2-night things, just to make that first step. Just come for a night, just see what it's like, see if you can do it, and then the next week or 2 weeks will be easier and easier. Yeah.
I was going to say very similar along the same lines, but I would also say as a parent, you need to allow yourself to trust that the kids are going to have a great time.
Yeah.
Right. There's a point where years ago our daughter Sydney went to Camp Kirk, and we got her because she has ADHD, and that was the best camp for her when she was 6. And I remember dropping her off, and she, within 17 seconds of walking into the cabin, sat down with one of the other girls in the cabin, and they started talking. And all of a sudden, they were like out the door, and Sydney turned around to me and says, "Okay, Dad, I'm good. You guys can go." And the thought process, but I'm not ready to let you go. And I've been in camp since I was 10, and like, no, I'm not ready. So, you did make the bed and like, okay, we're going to go. There's just a wave from across the field. And you sort of had to, that was a huge experience for the parents. So I say that if your child is ready, you're ready.
Yeah.
And you have to trust in that, because the outcome that you're going to get when your kid comes back and they are talking about everything they did in that week for the next 11 months, you're going to get stories at random points in time, and it's going to be amazing because you're just going to see their face light up and be a completely fuller person.
Yeah, I almost think the question is like, how do you know as a parent you're ready?
It's a hard one, because even when you think you're ready as a camp person, that's a hard thing to do, and it's a hard thing when you're as a camp saying, yes, send us your child for a week, which you are like physically, emotionally, like chemically wired to protect this small human. But the outcome is a huge, what we just talked about in the last question. There's so many reasons why it's good to go to camp.
One thing I was going to say is preparing them to go to camp. So this can be done in a lot of ways, but explaining to them what is camp, what happens at camp. We do send out information packages to parents, showing them what happens in a day, showing them the different programs they could do, like letting them know what could happen or what will happen. It will make them feel more comfortable with where they're going, rather than my first year at camp, I had absolutely no idea what a summer camp was. I had no idea where I was going, what I was doing. I was absolutely terrified. All I knew is that these social workers were sending me to a camp, and that was it. And I was going to be there for a week, and I was really confused. And it was the most meaningful week of my life. But maybe just slowly introducing what camp will be like in the coming weeks.
Like setting expectations,
Exactly.
right? And getting them sort of mentally prepared for that this is what's going to be like. And with my son last year, he didn't want to go like the night before, and he's like, I won't be able to play Minecraft. Buddy, you're going to be able to make real fires, shoot real bow and arrows. And it was just kind of like the eyes lit up, and he's like, really? Yeah, you can go play Minecraft. do Minecraft stuff for real. And that was, again, back to Brenn's point, you know your kid, you know what's going to motivate them and how to explain it. But yeah, they kind of need to know what's going to happen.
Is family camp still?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there'll be family camps in the spring. Those are great opportunities to come and just check out camp.
Yeah.
You know, with kids who are maybe a little bit more uncertain, that's likely a really great opportunity to come and be there with your parent, just like introduction to kindergarten. There's always the day when you can go in with your kids and go be in the classroom and show them what it's like. And that's a really important thing as well. We are also, of course, always welcome to giving new families tours if they want to come during the summer and come spend an hour or two walking around camp and seeing how it works. That's a wonderful thing to do. And we also have an open house, usually the weekend before camp starts, for people to come and just walk around the camp and see what it's like and look in the cabins and see what the facilities are like. And yeah, we definitely invite parents to come do that next year.
Yeah, my parents brought me to family camp before coming as a way of like, here's camp without having to leave home. And then I was ready to actually go to camp and leave home. So
It's more familiar that way. Yeah, kids love familiarity.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Which is like more back to Emily's point, just involving the kids in the process before camp is great, because if they're familiar with how their bag is packed, how their bed's going to be, if they've never slept in a twin size bed kind of thing before, like, I don't know, like getting them used to that if you can. What I love is when kids know what's in their bag exactly, and they're not like, I don't have any socks. And I'm like, you did not come to camp without socks. I know you have socks. So when they know what pocket it's in, it just makes everything so much smoother. That's what I find actually is your bag that you bring, if you know that really well, for some reason you're more comfortable at camp. You just, you know where your items are, you know nothing's lost. You know what clothes you're going to wear. You don't have the same pair of clothes that we're going to make you wear for a week. Like, you know you have clothes.
And it's a very empowering thing for kids to pack their own bag. Like we can give, you know, there's the packing list, and you can show your kids the packing list and let them know, and they can choose the shirts and the shorts and the socks that they want to bring. And it's something that you can do with your kids. And yeah, I'd strongly encourage parents to pack their bags with their kids.
Last summer, I had a mother that her two daughters or related family members were coming to camp for the first time, and they were incredibly nervous. They'd never been to a camp before, and it was very clear that the mother was also very nervous to let go and to step away and leave the camp. But she had written a note for each and every day for both of her kids to open up every single day. So potentially, like, giving something to your child that they can remember and have that connection with to you.
I always brought a family photo to camp every year. I always would get letters. I'd get, if I was doing a week-long camp, I'd get 3 letters, one on the Monday, the Wednesday, and the Friday. And one of them would have a family photo in there somewhere for me to just like, oh, this is what I really needed today. Just seeing their face, or like reading my mom's letters, I can hear her voice in my head. It's just comforting to know that they're still thinking of you. They didn't just ship you off to a place you don't know, even if that place is great. Like, being away from family can be hard at times. So just having those little things of familiarity.
Yeah.
Why did I go for that word again?
Got it this time.
Thank you.
It's up to.
I got a letter handwritten from a previous staff member for my first year on staff.
I've definitely done that for kids who don't have letters. I've written some myself and sent them. Yeah, we also, like, a common thing we did at camp is we have our camp mascot, and so kids who are upset that they might not be getting letters get a letter from Mossy the turtle, and they're like, Mossy wrote to me, guys, guess what? Like, he didn't write to any of you, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, I think each parent has a very unique relationship with their kids and a way that they relate to each other, and sometimes that might mean, you know, a letter every day, and sometimes it might not mean that. You know, I think that depends on on the kid and the parent and their relationship, then it's all great. And
Yeah.
I think, you know your kids and they know you, and hopefully camp, they can learn a little bit about themselves.
All right, so for our final question, to wrap up this awesome discussion, we're wondering where's the camp going? What do you see in the future, moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, Sparrow Lake has been around since 1912. It obviously has a pretty amazing history. This would have been the 108th summer of camp, but unfortunately it's not. It's the first summer that it's ever not operated in the last 107 summers. So I think what this gives us is just a really interesting opportunity to pause and reflect. Obviously this summer we're doing a lot of work. We're putting on a fresh coat of primer, both physically and spiritually, and starting fresh. To me, fundamentally what camp is a space that we create for kids where they can be the stars of their own life story. And that, I hope, is fundamentally what camp will always be about, no matter what it looks like inside the cabins or outside the cabins. We just want to create a space where kids feel comfortable being who they are. Maybe, hopefully, we'll get a couple new sailboats, but I think what's really important is that kids will continue to be kids, and kids will continue to grow and learn and expand and discover new things and make more friends, and hopefully for another 108 years. So that's my answer to that.
I would add on to that as well. I think not just kids, but staff. So there's a lot of growth that happens when you work in a camp, and it's a transition where you go from being in a place that you loved and having fun to love and having responsibilities. And I think that's a really key thing, that you're going to start learning skills that allow you to move forward in life. And I kind of want to make sure that we keep that going and can improve on it, because you want to be able to say, I want in 5 years, I want to be from a first year counselor, I want to be the program director. That's what I want to do, right? Or I want to eventually become a director of a camp. It might not happen right away. Life takes you in a lot of different directions, but if you're really lucky, they bring you back to camp at some point. And I kind of want that for all of our staff and all of our campers to eventually become staff.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with that. To have the campers be staff, there's definitely more passion in the staff that have grown up here. Not to say that staff who come in, I am a staff who just came to this camp, but I'm passionate about camps in general. So
yes, and that's what
that's what carries on, and maybe seeing more of those campers join LIT and then SIT and then becoming first year counselors would be a great way for the camp to grow and improve. One way that I'm hoping the camp improves in the future is to work on our tripping program, and hoping that we can get kids not only in nature, which we are here at camp, but out of doors, like in the bush. There's definitely something different that goes on. When you leave society, quote unquote society, and you go to camp, that's one thing where you become a different person. But when you leave camp to go onto Crown land or just in the bush, you're a completely different person. There's different responsibilities, there's different roles. Not only do the staff now have responsibilities, but the campers do too. They're expected to help keep the site clean and proper and help put these tents up, and just help, quote unquote, survive. And seeing Sparrow develop that in a couple years, which I believe is our plan, would be great, because giving campers more experiences is what we're about. So just providing that and being able to would be a great way for us to grow.
One of my main goals for this summer was redeveloping the way that programming is done. Programming has been done in a couple of different ways over the last several years, and I want to find a unified way that makes sure that programs are meaningful, but also making sure that programs make sense for whatever the context is, whatever the activity is, that it makes sense. That, for example, what happens at ropes will be completely opposite to what happens at sailing. There is no unified form that will work for every single program, but being able to really pay attention to each program and develop each program individually will be one of my goals. Another one thing I was working on prior to this summer was figuring out a way for campers to experience every single program at camp. So making sure that they're able to quote unquote dip their toes into everything and try something new, and rather than I've definitely had friends of mine that have been at camps that have just done arts and crafts for all 4 sessions straight and never expanded past that, but having that opportunity to expand past that is so important, and that's something I'm working on for next year.
We used to do on the second day. So you have first day is like rotations, like nurses and all that. And then the second day was program rotation. So you had a half-hour block and you went around to each program and got a little taste. And then you chose
The third day.
the third day, because kids, when you go choose your programs, you have no idea what you're picking.
Yeah.
They'll pick what they know. So like arts and crafts, that's pretty generic. Swimming, I know what swimming is, but maybe
With kids being comfortable with like familiar things. They want to pick what they know. Sorry to interrupt there.
No, it's good.
Another thing I'm hoping to develop is the Low Ropes program. Low Ropes is a initiative-based program, and it can really be developed into team working and learning a lot of skills, and being able to learn those skills in a team, I think, is incredibly valuable, and is something I want to develop and hope to develop over the next few years.
Awesome.
I think too, from an operational point of view, there's always room for a camp to improve its operations, and just to make, from the minute that the kids get on the bus in Toronto or Newmarket, to the second that they're, getting off of it or being picked up, and it needs to be such a positive environment, right? A positive experience, and that's really where I see this place being. I mean, it's hard. I'm coming in as a brand new person, and this is my first summer. So it's exciting because we're doing all sorts of new things, and we're going to make this place look really nice for next year. But it's disappointing at the same time, because as much as I'm getting to know this small crew, there are so many people and so many kids that I didn't get to meet. So I, see their names in registration, and I don't get to put a face to the name. And do we lose? Nope, there she is.
Edit that out.
Yeah.
So then you've got, I can't remember what I was saying.
Putting faces to names.
Putting faces to names, and being able to see what Sparrow Lake is about. So I'm hearing all these great stories from the crew, and listening to what, what we can change, or what we should change, or what we shouldn't change, and soaking all that in, because there's always room for improvement and ways to make things more efficient, but without sparing experience. Like, you want to have a great experience, but can we make things a little bit better so that experience goes from great to fantabulous?
I think what people forget is, because camp is so intermingled with their memories, and they think of it as family and a second home, they forget that camp is a business, and businesses should always look towards the future of what they want to be, and not, yes, recognizing what you currently are and your current values and where you stand, but you should always be looking towards where you want to go, what you want to do next, how you can improve and make things more efficient.
So I'm very glad that camp is in capable hands. I can tell that we're going places. So I think we're gonna wrap it up.
Okay.
So thank you so much for joining us today. We had some really great discussions,
Yeah.
and we're very glad that
Thank you.
you could share your knowledge, your wisdom.
Always. Always here for a good chat.
And thank you to everyone listening for tuning in to our second episode of the Camp Corner podcast.
Come back in 2 weeks for our next episode.
Can't wait.
Wait.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.